Greetings to all true boxing fans. This morning, I watched the so-called fight between Jake Paul and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. live. I was simply stunned by what I saw. At first, I even hesitated and couldn't believe my eyes. Then I fell asleep, got some rest, and when I woke up, I thought, maybe it was all just a dream. I opened boxing websites and, by the way, on many of them, on news sites, they see it differently. They see it as a convincing, well-deserved, and fair victory for Jake Paul, but I completely disagree with that. And in this video, I want to share my impressions of this fight with you, and also draw some conclusions from it. The conclusions will be, grim. So, what now? Pour yourself some tea. Guys, you should pour some tea too. This episode is informal. By the way, I usually get so focused on talking that I even forget to drink my tea. But today, I really need some tea. First, before the fight, I analyzed this match in my private channel. Just like I always do, I break down fights and record predictions for them. The private channel, even though there's a betting section, which is separate, mainly focuses on boxing. So, it was immediately clear that this fight was shady from the start, because there are several layers to it. First, the fact that Jake Paul is a cruiserweight boxer. Meanwhile, Chavez Jr., they say he's a former world champion at middleweight, which is 72 kilos, 600 grams. That's 20 kilos less than Jake Paul. Well, obviously, yeah, that was a long time ago, 15 years ago. And Chavez Jr., even back then, was already struggling to make that weight. Then he moved up to 76. After that, he even missed weight at 76 and was fighting at around 80 kilos. But you see, one way or another, that's a huge difference in natural size and natural power. That's the first layer. That's on Jake Paul's side. And I think that's why he chose Chavez Jr. As his opponent. The second layer is boxing skills. I mean, the thing is, there's a lot of talk. Is Jake Paul a real professional boxer or not? Guys, yes, he is a real professional boxer. He knows how to box. That's a fact. I always trust my own eyes. I can assess his boxing level. But at the same time, if you just take a guy, I don't know, from a local open ring, a tournament that's not even Class B, just some tournament in the Pechetniki district or, say, in the Kadrovo area. Basically, they'd take him out there, I think, most likely, right? I mean, just guys who have been boxing since childhood. Exactly, not professionals. That's it. So, I rate Jake Paul's level as more of a blogger who, yes, he knows how to box. That's true. Accordingly, Chavez Jr. is his father's son. He's an athlete, who was a champion, basically, thanks to connections. If you just watch his fights or even open Wikipedia and read about him, he was always heavily promoted. They picked weak opponents for him, and, well, the judges' decisions were often pretty questionable too. Chavez only had one good, worthy fight, which, of course, he completely lost. That was the fight against. I can barely pronounce his name, Maravilla Sergio Martinez, because he knocked him down at the end, but still lost. Now, look, so it turns out that, in any case, Chavez's level as a boxer was significantly higher. And that's the second layer. Before the fight, it was clear that as a boxer, he was just fundamentally better, because he's someone who's been boxing since childhood, you know, and can box one way or another. Even though he's not any smaller in terms of size. And the third layer is the organizer. So, who is the organizer of the fight? You see, it's like a bullfight. It's just like a bullfight. Who will win, the bull or the matador? You can start analyzing. Guys, I apologize. Today I'm stumbling over my words, almost swallowing them out of some kind of inner frustration. You can analyze it, like the bull weighs 300 kilograms, and the matador weighs 80 kilograms. You can start with, say, the bull's speed, the matador's weapon. But all of that works differently. It's all very simple. The thing is, the organizers of the bullfight are people. That is, it's the matador and his team. The bull is just the invited party be here, so his chances are basically zero. That's kind of the third layer. So it's exactly the same here. The organizer, basically, is Jake Paul, it's his company. Yes, in partnership with other people, one way or another. And they paid $3 million, which Chavez Jr. is supposed to get. At least that's what journalists are reporting. The fee there is $700,000, but with all the payouts, they say it will be $3 million. And Chavez would never have made that kind of money with anyone else. Yeah, and this point is also really important. Now, so before the fight, what was I expecting? That we would see some, either a competitive showdown if the fight was real, or maybe Chavez would just get taken apart. Well, because there are a lot of rumors going around that he's a junkie, and so on. But what we saw was something completely different. I start up everything, the fight, and begin to watch. First round. Chavez raises his hands, moves around, defends with his forearms, uses that tight guard, hands up high, hands in place, slips punches. He defended himself. SEC, second round. The Chavez is doing something. Guys, today I keep losing my train of thought like never before. No, I didn't forget. It's just the feeling. And actually, the feeling isn't even bad, really, don't get me wrong. It's not that I'm in a bad mood. My mood is good. It's more a feeling of surprise, like, yeah, what was that? Third round. Looking for the perfect shot, I believe. And his name is Jake, right? Defending himself again. And in the round, literally, I don't know, for like 5 seconds he explodes. So for 5 seconds he was attacking or something. Well, Chavez is attacking. It looks like he's got a left hook like Canelo. He throws it with that kind of step. It's long, like, just swings it over there. And he's really well put together. It's interesting. Well, it's probably not easy to show while sitting on a chair, but basically, it has a kind of beginning and end, and a clear fixation. So it's actually pretty cool, even kind of unique in its own way. And that's it, right? And then we watch the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds, and it becomes clear that what we're seeing is, well, something not real. So Jake Paul is boxing, and he's boxing adequately, basically just as he should. We've gone over this many times, both on the private channel and on the public channel. I even have a separate episode about Jake Paul. So, is Jake Paul a boxer or a blogger after all? His body doesn't always cooperate that well. Jake Paul's, but he does what he needs to do. He moves around in circles. He maneuvers. He jabs, keeps his opponent at bay with the jab. He fires shots from a distance, really puts power into them. But in this fight, notice, by the way, that right from the first round Jake Paul acted totally in control. He wasn't afraid to come in close and throw the right hook. That's a very risky punch for the one throwing it. And in any real fight, opponents, well, with very rare exceptions, there are some who start aggressively right away, like Arslanbek Makhmudov, for example. He really goes at it from the very first seconds. That's just as an example. And there are other boxers like that abroad, like Mike Tyson, for instance, in his prime. But even then, not against every opponent. There are those who start aggressively. They do exist, but as a rule, the first round is for feeling each other out. So Jake Paul, he absolutely wasn't afraid of Chavez Jr. And Chavez Jr. wasn't throwing punches. He was basically acting like a punching bag, or you could say he was holding pads, except instead of pads, he was just standing there himself. And you can see the red markings now on the Chavez Jr. He was just going easy on him. That's all there is to it. In other words, he was holding back. That's my subjective opinion. So, moving on, in the later rounds, the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, there were moments when Chavez exploded, especially in the 9th and 10th rounds, where Chavez even tried to show some real boxing, more or less. He managed to land some shots on Jake Paul. There was even a cross in one of the exchanges, and it seemed to me that he softened it, because the punch was landing well. And it was like he took the edge off that punch. But again, that's just my subjective opinion. And basically, when I saw all that, honestly, the first 3 rounds were already enough for me. So what happens next doesn't even matter anymore. The first 3 rounds, they weren't real. But again, that's just how I see it. So basically, it's fake. It's a setup. That's it. And after that, it could go any way. I think they agreed beforehand that this wasn't going to be a real fight. 5 rounds to none in favor of Jake Paul, 50-40. Basically, it was like a circus act. There are all sorts of ways to make a deal. I don't know exactly how. Like, maybe you throw the first half of the fight, and then in the second half you can actually box a little. Or maybe you fight however you want, but you have to lose. I don't know. Maybe you get some extra bonus for losing. It could be anything. I have no idea. Maybe he woke up in the morning and, I don't know, aliens cast a spell on Chavez Jr. and implanted some kind of program in his head. But you see, theoretically, anything can happen in boxing. Maybe, like, we're all waiting for the Canelo versus Crawford fight. Or maybe Crawford will come out and just defend himself for the first 3 rounds, walking around like that, while Canelo beats him up, and then he'll fight just like Chavez did. And then he'll just say, that's what I wanted. It's my right, right? But no, guys. From my point of view, that's deception. And the problem here is that this is an official bout, approved by the Athletic Commission. I mean, there are exhibition fights. Take Floyd Mayweather, for example. He does exhibition matches. That's his right. By the way, some of those are pretty weird too. There was one opponent, I remember, who, in my opinion, was going easy on him, but maybe he wasn't even going easy, just kind of hypnotized, you know, like Floyd is the greatest. So, that can happen, sure, okay, but that's an exhibition fight. So they can do whatever they want there. They could even start wrestling if they feel like it, and that's totally their right, because it's a show. But here, this is a fight that's been approved by the State Athletic Commission. Yeah, California, there, Ankam, I can't pronounce it, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't happen. So, I think what we saw was fake, a setup, a forgery, a deception. Like fraud, a lie, right? A scam. What other synonyms are there? But under the guise of real boxing, approved by the State Athletic Commission. And that's something I strongly condemn. Again, I don't have any proof. I mean, my only evidence is what I see. He's regularly getting hit in the body. I've been boxing my whole life. I've been watching boxers my whole life. I believe that just can't happen. So, I saw an obvious setup. And you know, there are different countries in the world. I mean, there are countries where if you see something, you better lower your eyes, keep quiet, and just hide, because otherwise, well, you could get hurt. Sure, you could be a hero. That's great too. It's very admirable, but it's dangerous. America, well, it's a country of law. And it seems to be that way. I don't know. I don't live there. Again, that's just what I've heard, seen, and can observe from some indirect signs. And so, it seems pretty strange to me if the competent authorities there don't take any, well, actions, right? And maybe they'll conduct some interviews, you know, interrogations, suspicions, investigations, something like that, right? Because after all, it was an official fight. There are people who have been affected here. First of all, if someone buys a broadcast or a ticket, they're buying a ticket to an official sporting event. There are also people who, for example, placed bets. And they were counting on a real fight instead of this, meaning this is a real fight, official, guys, this isn't a show, it's an official sporting match, approved by the State Commission. And they got a completely different outcome. By the way, just in case, I can say something about myself right away. Well, it was clear to me that anything could happen here, you know, we could see all sorts of things, so of course, I didn't place any bets before the fight. That's it. But what I saw, even I didn't expect. I mean, I thought maybe Chavez would be out of shape, maybe something could be wrong with him, I don't know, maybe he had a beer before the fight, you know, some kind of mess could happen. But what I saw was that, overall, he was fine. And that he was just deliberately not boxing. I mean, he was defending himself brilliantly. But he wasn't throwing punches. That's, to put it mildly, strange. Yeah, that's how it is. By the way, there have been cases in boxing where the FBI conducted investigations. For example, the fight between Muhammad Ali and Sonny Liston. Their first fight. I specifically refreshed my knowledge about it. That fight took place in 1964, more than 50 years ago. And back then, the FBI had some suspicions. There was a man named Resnick, I think, yes. And, basically, Sonny Liston himself. Each of them earned an extra, of course, about $1 million from that fight. Well, that's roughly like today. I don't know, at least 10, maybe even 20 million, because of high inflation. And the FBI tried to investigate this. So, there was evidence of this, because this Resnick, his friend called him on the phone, and Resnick told him, like, dude, you want to bet? I know, on Sonny Liston. He was a big favorite. Don't bet. You'll see later why, and so on. In short, that's exactly how it turned out. And, basically, the FBI couldn't prove anything at the time. They tried to prove everything, kept trying, but couldn't manage to prove anything. Later, by the way, both Resnick and Sonny Liston died pretty quickly. Yeah. Is that a coincidence or not? Interesting question. Maybe it's a coincidence, or maybe not. Well, how quickly are we talking? They died a few years later. Yeah. And look, this kind of thing happens in boxing. There have been cases, a lot of cases, against all sorts of people, against the mafia in boxing. And sure, it might seem funny, all jokes and laughs. Jake Paul, he's a cheerful guy, always smiling. Yeah, he's probably a good guy, really. He brings people joy, he entertains people, and that's not a bad thing. I respect that, entertaining people. A blogger, a showman, an entertainer. Well, he brings people joy, especially in today's world, where everything is heading toward AI taking over intellectual work, physical work. Basically, we're already at the point where they're going to make robots. In fact, they're already making them and putting them on assembly lines in factories. It's already started. It's just a matter of the cost of a robot. And actually, those who bring us joy, who entertain us, that's great, that's admirable, yes, that's creativity. But from my point of view, and again, I'm just sharing my opinion, what I see, I don't have proof. You can't mix deception with real boxing. So, in show fights, do whatever you want, like wrestling. You can do literally anything, really. You could even stick him right into the ring if you want. You could parachute in or fly out on a plane during the fight, whatever. But if it's a fight approved by the Athletic Commission, it goes into BoxRec. And I also heard a rumor that now they want to include Jake Paul, WBC. I think the WBC wants to put him in the rankings so he can contend for a title. But that's wild. It's just imagine if they actually do that. For some reason, I think they won't do it, because they have a gut feeling about it. No, they won't want to do that. They'll say, buddy, let's wait for your next fight, something more legit. By the way, a few days ago, I read an interview with Floyd Mayweather, and he spoke about Jake Paul and said some interesting things. He said that Jake Paul, how should I put it? So basically, when he faces a real boxer, he wasn't talking about Chavez Jr., he meant in a general sense, but when he finally goes up against a real boxer, he's going to get beaten up badly. Not just badly, but he'll be, totally defeated. He used an interesting word, saying it would be, a bitter disappointment for Jake Paul, a harsh reality check. And at the time, I didn't get it. I thought, why is he going after Jake Paul like that? Because Floyd Mayweather is pretty. Well, those who know him personally, who have dealt with him, all say that he's actually a pretty reasonable and kind person in his own way. So, he has a certain image, but actually, he's not just reasonable. They say he's a positive and kind person in many ways. Of course, everyone has their own flaws. Everyone has a dark side. But anyway, Floyd Mayweather is actually a big friend of boxing. And, Jake Paul seems to be developing boxing too. Plus he's close with his brother, with the whole Paul slogan. They're all connected, so I think there shouldn't be anything bad about it. And for some reason, that's how Floyd acted. Now I understand why he acted that way. I think it's because Floyd knew all of this in advance. Those are my thoughts. Yeah, basically, I've shared my thoughts with you. Guys, I break down the real fight in my private Telegram channel. Yeah, the paid subscription there costs about as much as a cup of coffee per month. You can subscribe from any country. We analyzed this fight there too. We also broke down the Dirty Kosova fight there. We also analyzed the fight with Deontay Wilder and the Billy fight there as well. Basically, we always break down all the fights there, so go ahead and subscribe. If you can't subscribe there, then I recommend just subscribing to the public channel Boxing Lab. Boxing Lab 2, it's the red one. You'll find it in Telegram search or just Google Boxing Lab Telegram. Anyway, just look it up and subscribe. That's how it is. All the best to everyone. See you next time. Should I turn off the camera?